All right, we are back. Wrestling Mindset with the great Donnie DeFillipis, Yale Street Wrestling, my former teammate at Rutgers. Donnie, welcome back. Excited to talk about some parent issues today.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks for having me. Always exciting to get a chance to talk to you. I was saying before, man, I go through a lot as a club owner, and come up with challenges that I get faced with, and I always feel like I'm venting sometimes, talking it out to myself, to my fellow coaches, and it's always good to have someone like you, who knows the game in and out, to be able to bounce ideas off of, get advice from, and even just to hear me out, because yeah, there's just it's just never ending with what we're doing, with the challenges that we face, and I feel like when we talk about our experiences, people can actually learn too, and they can learn from it. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad
it's
I'm glad we could do this.
and we both other people learn, we learn the two of us, and it's therapeutic for us to get it off our chest, both of
Yeah,
us.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
go go ahead. Yeah, so let's talk about it. What are some of the things you wanted to hit on?
Man, well, I was thinking about this just actually right when I got home from work today, man. About I'm talking to my son. My sons are very involved in the sport. My older son Dominic is coming into seventh grade, and that's right around the time when I started making my strides, and it was really mostly all mental. And I can't. You guys, this is what you do for a living, so I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I can't stress enough how you have parents that utilize your system, they utilize your program. They know that we're here to help with certain things. You could tell them till you're blue in the face, and they just don't. It's like they don't believe you, and so that's really frustrating. It's frustrating that you guys have a program that I know a lot of our parents use, and sometimes you'll catch them in moments, and you're like, hey, that's not a good mindset, and it's like they can't catch themselves. I'll give you an example, like just the average everyday tournament, looking at the brackets are out, everybody texts the
Right.
brackets are out, and like now I'm a parent, so now they text me and they think I'm going to go run and look at the brackets, and
Yes.
I don't. I mean, I eventually do. It's not that important to me. But they always, a lot of people, when they get a tough kid in the first round, their response is like, oh no, we got this guy or we got that guy, and I'm like, first of all, number one, do you think any of those guys from Penn State ever do that? Like, we talk about how great Penn State is. Do you think any of those guys on that team are looking at the brackets and going, "Oh no, I got a tough draw"? You know,
No, that no.
and I try to explain that to people. Like, my goal when I was going through New Jersey, like my senior year, I bonused everybody in the state tournament, and that was probably when I was at my peak mentally. And I didn't care who I got in the draw. Like, my in my mind, I was dominating whoever it was in front of me. I didn't care who it was, where they were from. And you try to explain that to these people, to these parents, and they will listen to you, but then they won't. They're like, oh well, it's really tough to tech fall everybody in front of you. Okay, but then they'll look at a Jax Forrest or a Bo Bassett, and they'll look at them and they'll go, oh, those guys are freaks. Well, you and I both know, because we've seen many physical freaks in our day. Where they're freaks, there's plenty of people that have the physical ability that Bo Bassett and Jax Forrest do, right? And I'm not undermining how great they are physically, but there are plenty of people that have their physical ability.
Right.
Where they're freaks is in their mind and their belief in themselves, right?
Absolutely. Without
Yeah.
a doubt. I mean, they're dedicated to the sport to the point where they're willing to give everything, but yet they keep a big perspective. I mean, they clearly talk a lot about faith and family, so it's like they're rooted in this big picture perspective, but at the same time they're all in on wrestling. Like, their whole life, everything is structured around wrestling and their success, but at the same time they have the perspective. And I think a lot of times, if you can't do one without the other. It's like you just have the perspective. Obviously, that's great. You got to put the pedal to the metal with your training, right? You got to go all in with that. But then there's a lot of other people who go all out with their training, but maybe there's, the faith, family, the perspective isn't there. So they put too much pressure on themselves. So it's not an either or, it's a both and.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, the to be able to, not think about the outcome and focus on the results is always, you hear a lot of the great ones talking about that now. and that's easier said than done. I get it. But I think with our young athletes and, the ones that are coming through our program and many other programs in New Jersey and the ones that you guys are working with, I think one of the things that I find myself saying to parents all the time, how can you expect your kid to have a strong mindset if you don't?
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. You sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session.
Right.
That is boggles my mind. Like if you're walking around and you're doubting your son, or you're talking about how great everybody else is, or you're always talking about how he's not 100% or he's this or he's that, what kind of mindset do you have, and how can you expect your son to have a strong mindset?
Exactly. And that's why I've heard Zach Evanesh talk many times about this, not just him, but other people who have high levels of success. Live the code, right? Live the code.
Live the code. Zach says that all the time. Yeah.
Right. So, and it's absolutely right. Like if you want your kid to be mentally tough, but if your kid sees you always criticizing, blaming, complaining, pointing the finger, no, it's the teacher's fault. No, it's the coach's fault. No, it's the referee's fault. And granted, like, other people can make mistakes. It's not saying we can't, explain that to our kids that nobody's perfect. Right. But if we got to point the finger predominantly at ourselves. We can't control what's out there. Life isn't fair. I'm the one who's got it. And then, like you said, also, I see, pictures, videos you post, you're working out, you're exercising, are we perfect? No. Right. Is our nutrition perfect? Is our exercise perfect? No. But if the kids see, hey, your dad's trying to live at a high level, mom's trying to live at a high level, that they see that. Right. And we'd rather, and a lot of times kids, we say, do as I say, not as I do. That's ridiculous, because every parent says it goes in one ear and out the other. And people say, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. So it's all tied into living the code. It's the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Zach we used to have in the same building. He used to run underground at a Yeti MMA where we started Yale Street. And I got a chance to get close to Zach, especially during that time. Mm-hmm. And that's something he and I used to talk about all the time. And, now my kids are older. They work out with us. They work out with me all the time. That's just like that's just a regular thing that we do. And it's not happening in every household. So I do think that's pretty cool. And it's also why I still wrestle, man. Like, I mean, I can't wrestle with college guys, I don't think, anymore. Not that I don't even want to try, but being 40, about to turn 45, I'm still wrestling with our better high school kids. And I think when they come out in the garage and they see me rolling with, some of the guys that they look up to, I think hopefully that rubs off on them and makes them think like, hey, my dad's doing it. My dad's out here sweating. He's doing the hard drilling. He's wrestling and scrambling. Like, if he's doing it, I could do it,
Right. It's not, and for these kids, it's not saying we couldn't go out there and beat some of these college guys. It's what's going to happen to our body tomorrow and the next day. So let's be perfectly clear. We go out there and beat some of these guys.
I mean, I'm lucky. I still get to roll with. We have Logan Wadle and Mike Campanera are both Division I wrestlers. Joey Ortega is at Kutztown. I can still roll with those guys a little bit. But Logan and Mikey are like a little bit smaller. So. Yeah, I definitely, I'm not looking to get tangled with like a 49 or a 57 pounder on a daily basis. That's the other thing too, is like, I could probably wrestle like once or twice a week. I can't do it any more than that now with my body, because I want to be able to wrestle with my kids when they get older too. I'm sure you want to do that too. So we got to be careful. But
but they see but the point is they see you're living the code and you're, you want to be fit. Wrestling's important to you. It's exciting and it's a fun thing. So the parents, they need to really, what messages are you sending to your kids verbally and non-verbally? I stress that a lot because a lot of times people it's a both and again. It's a lot of times not either or. It's both and. We're like, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one. You need to do both. You need to be saying the right things or trying to say the right things and living the right way. And it's the same. And it's the same with that live in the code. Or giving them the positive reinforcement, speaking about the right things. If I'm telling them not to criticize, blame, and complain, I need to tell them that, and then I also need to demonstrate that myself. So it's making a commitment to living at a high level all the time.
It's tough. I mean,
It's real hard.
It's like I'm talking about things that even I as a parent have been a victim of or have been guilty of.
All of us
at times, like I'm not going to say I never got caught up in a bracket. Like when Dominic first did the States, sure, I was running to go look at the bracket, and then I had to remind myself, what are you doing? What are you doing?
You're different. But here's the thing. It's a little bit different, but it is a little bit different. You looking at the bracket versus, if you're a competitor, it's different than if you're a coach, right? Because a coach, or first of all, the parent has the luxury to look at it. They're not competing, but maybe then the parent shouldn't then start telling the kid all these different things. Now, if you're
that's it. We know what to say too. Like I obviously never speak too highly of our opponents. I mean, I'm not one to do that. And it kind of drives me crazy when I hear people doing that. That's kind of like, okay, look, we came down here to get good matches. I'll never forget the first Ward to Shore that Dominic ever did. He drew Stevie J. Middich in the first round. And if Steve, coach at Rutgers, his son's phenomenal. And he's a very, very good wrestler. And I mean, I think they were like 9 or 10. He was like just on a whole nother level. I mean, dominating everybody. And everybody was like, oh man, you got Middich in the first round. That's a tough draw. And I was like, no, I'm happy. I want to see where my kid's at. We came down here to wrestle this level. If we didn't get him the first round, we might not have been able to wrestle him throughout the tournament. So that was my mind. I was trying to tell people this is how we think, and you don't want to look at that as a negative. You should look at that as a positive because we're going to Ward to Shore to wrestle the best competition.
Right. Yeah. It's like parents will say, a lot of times parents aren't aware of their own hypocrisy. It'll be like, and it's, it's not just parents, like we're all guilty of it from time. So we're not pointing the finger at anyone, but it's like, we'll say that we want the competition. And then when we get the competition, it's like, ooh, I got this guy. And it's like, well, what is it? We're like, hey, yeah.
Right.
or it's like, the season ends. I want my kid to get big. He's got to bulk up. He's got to get stronger. He's got to put on some muscle. And then in the season, and then right for the season, it's like, yeah, we got to get 15 pounds. We got to get down. We got to lose that weight. Or, now you're wrestling a kid who's the exact same size. And they're like, he was real big. It's like, what I mean? Like you're saying he's going to get big. He's got to get strong. Then he's got to lose all the muscle. And, it doesn't make sense.
No, and that's a whole nother conversation for us to have about the weight cutting that goes on at the youth level, and it is disturbing in some cases, and I also think, Gene, like where we are right now in 2025, that's opposed to where we were even in 2015, 10 years ago. There's a club literally like within 10 minutes of each other
everywhere. Around here anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, down here it's getting like that too. And it's like, and a lot of these guys, and it's good. Listen, a lot of these guys are young kids coming out of college and they just, they want to start a club because it's a different time, right? Like when I was coming out of college, there wasn't as many clubs. So your best option was coach high school. And then like people actually came up to me and they were like, hey, we think you should start a club. We'll back you financially. And I was like, I don't know nothing about coaching wrestling. I was a wrestler, but I don't know how to coach. And the 12 years that I spent coaching high school wrestling made me so much better at coaching. Yeah. And so nothing, I look, a lot of these young guys are great. They're enthusiastic. They have really good coaching skills already. But what else is the trick is dealing with the parents. Right. And that's something that, that's a lot harder to do than run a practice room, teach a wrestling move, or even just get into a kid's head, dealing with the parents. Like I've always been honest and always almost brutally honest to a fault. And I see a lot of club coaches doing, and what you see is because it is a business. So there are some people that they don't want to be too honest because they don't want to lose you as a client. So maybe they will tell you a little bit of what you want to hear. And I don't fault anyone for doing that because you're trying to run a business. I get it. But what happens is if a coach like myself is being honest with someone and saying, no, you shouldn't cut 10 pounds with your 11-year-old kid. And then all right, well, they didn't like what I said, so now they're going to go to this club over here, and that club owner's going, okay, yeah, if that's what you want to do, go do it. So there's a lot of choices, and because of that, you can always, a parent can always find someone that's going to tell them what they want to hear, and that's dangerous.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's one of the big reasons why over the last few years we started doing a lot more parents meetings where we get everyone together, and then basically we give an introduction, we tell them different things, we address the cutting weight topic, and then basically use that as an open time to ask us questions, and then also we conspire behind the parents' back with the club owner or the team coach, where we're saying like, hey, what are some of the big issues that you're having, and we'll go over that with them. And sometimes just hearing it from someone else goes a long way. But again, parents are going to do what everyone has free will. So they're going to do what they want to do anyway. And again, just one night talking, that's good. It could change some people's minds, but you've been thinking a certain way for so long, it's hard to override the system. That's why mindset training takes time. Just like, how do you fix a kid shooting with his head down? That could take 4 or 5 years, almost every day. So it's the same thing with parents. It's like, they've grown up with that with their parents. They're hearing all the other parents talk like that, and they're like that. So it's hard to we have one night talk, and then that's it. Poof, it goes away.
That's it. And they see this kid over here who's, maybe a 3-time state champ or really good. And well, what's he doing? Well, that kid's cutting weight for everything. Well, that's what we need to do. Well, no, that's not, because that guy's not in it for the long game, and we know how that movie's going to end, because we've seen it before. Sure, there are outliers. There are your outliers that make it. But most of the time, if you're cutting that amount of weight when you're at that age, you're not gonna want to do it when it counts, because when you get to high school, you do have to cut some weight. You do have to cut some weight, but you do it the right way. And now nutrition has changed and it's a lot better, and these kids have a better idea for how to do it the right way. But if you have a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, and the other thing too, Gene, is it's almost like every time they wrestle, I know a group that they go to national duels every month. That's what they do. And what do you think's happening? Those kids, you're looking at some of those kids, they're at the same weight for 3 years, because every month, you got to cut a little here, you got to cut a little there. Well, it's only 2 pounds now, it's only 3 pounds now, because for these national duels, you got to cut weight because all these guys are cutting weight. And then it's just never ending, and we kind of when those kids get to high school, if you don't take a break from that weight cutting, they're not going to want to do it. And that's when they really should be doing it, when it counts,
And not only, and you look at just the long-term development, people's cutting weight as young as 8 years old, even if it's only a pound or two, it's a good percentage of their body weight. And now imagine between 8 and 18, how much does that kid grow? 300. I'm just, Valentin Kalika and I are writing a book together. Well, he's writing a book.
I can't wait to see this book.
Oh, it's awesome. He's writing the book, and I'm helping him fine tune the way he wants to say some of the things. And we were talking about this 2 hours ago, literally this. And he was making the point, because he had to study physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, and he's he was making the point between 8 and 18, the kid grows 300 to 500%. He's we're talking about liver function, kidneys, wow. Your hormones get thrown off for life, your organs. And I said, and I made the comment, I was, making him laugh. I was like, too many fat coaches. And he was like, yeah, he said, but also a lot of them, and I was like, you have to live what we're saying, you have to live the code with the way they want, the way you need to eat and take care of yourself. And he's like, I don't think it's necessarily some of the people it is that they're eating bad, but some of the people, these coaches, they messed up their body so much for cutting weight for so long that their hormones, they've broken their hormone system, the endocrine system, to a certain extent, where they're not able to keep off fat to the way they could have before. So he's looking at it like long-term development,
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense though. It makes sense. I mean, listen, I can't wait to read this book. That I watch all your clips. I've seen, your podcasts with him. I've seen him in the room coaching. Obviously, he's a legend, and his name speaks for himself. But I mean, that guy just to be able to read a book from a guy who's been coaching it in the game that long and at that high of a level, I think is something that we should all try to do.
It's the education, because he sent me his curriculum, what he had to study. So I feel like I'm a pretty knowledgeable guy. I have 2 master's degrees, one in exercise science, sports psychology, the other one in clinical. I wrestled in high school, college, this kind of thing. This guy's master's degree is in elite wrestling coaching. That's a totally different thing. He had He had to take biochemistry, all these things. Essentially, after the first 2 years, after his first 2 years, he could have switched to medical school. Literally, he could have switched to medical school because that's how well you had to know the body before you became a coach. So, I mean, just tying it back to everything that we're saying here is that there's a lot you need to know, and coaches, we're still learning constantly. You and I are constantly reading books and watching videos that a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of parents, and it's not it's certainly not a disrespect, you can't know everything. Their job is to put food on the table and take care of the kid. That's a far more important job than just wrestling coach. But they shouldn't be trying to replace what the wrestling coach is doing. You want to really defer to the expert. And I even think even the things I know, I defer to the expert that, my kids get older, the wrestling coach, because you know what? That's the coach's job. In the Soviet Union, there was no parents in the wrestling room. There was none of that. I mean, Vogar said this. Vogar Ruzhov, Vito's dad, said his dad never saw him wrestle. It's like I've been in the room when my kid was 3 over at Little Hulks, Coach Focus.
I totally understand that, because we actually recently, like a year ago, had to build a window. We had to build a window on top of the wall that we had to separate the parents from the room, because they just couldn't control themselves. We had parents that were coaching the entire match, the entire practice.
Mindset Monday is brought to you by our official sponsors, Eat Clean, bro. Make sure you order today, get them delivered right to your house, check them out, and make sure you put in your discount code MINDSET.
And it was interfering. It was interfering with the learning. It was interfering with us teaching. And so, I mean, it is a different culture out there. And I would say that they know how to do it, right? I mean, I was just watching Countdown, UFC Countdown with Khamzat, with the fight he has coming up. I mean, he grew up in that area where Saitiev was from, and Sejalayev, and Dagestan. I mean, that's where he grew up, and he grew up in those rooms. And those guys, they did it right. They definitely did it right.
Yeah, cutting weight doesn't make you a better wrestler. Becoming a better wrestler makes you a better wrestler. And it's long-term. You have to really put on the long-term vision. I see way too many parents just trying to keep up with the Joneses. And where is my kid right now? And how do we beat this kid right now? And it's like, your kid is not ready to beat that kid right now sometimes. And that's okay. He doesn't have to be ready to beat him right now. Long-term vision. And again,
I have made sure that my kids weren't ready to beat certain kids right now. Right. Like I made sure, we're playing baseball in the spring. You're staying off the mat for 4 weeks. You're not going to practice every day, and I remind them of that. Like if they come off the mat and they lose to one of these guys that are high level state ranked kids, I'm like, hey, you weren't made to beat him right now. Now's not your time. Your time's going to come. And, with my older son, we're getting to that point where I think he came off the baseball field. He had a good baseball season this year. He came off the field, and I said, hey, I love watching you play ball, buddy. I'm a baseball fan. I love watching you play ball. It's easier for me. I could just sit here and cheer you on. I don't get involved in the game or anything. But, if you want to be a wrestler that's going to contend for a high school state championship as a freshman, we might need to think about not playing anymore, but that's going to be your choice. If you want to continue to play baseball, I fully support it. And these are the things that I feel like, I've learned as a coach. I'm not saying I have all the answers as a parent. I certainly don't. I mean, I make a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've had to go back and correct them and apologize for them and hope that I don't do it again. But, in that moment when I was having that conversation with him, I wanted him to know that if this was his choice, it's going to be his choice and not mine. And I'm not pushing him in any way. And he got picked to play in the All-Star game, and they didn't have the All-Star game for some reason, but he said to me, he's like, no, he's like, I'm leaving my shoes on the field. I'm retired. So I'm excited for the next chapter with him because now it's, the sport has evolved so much, and, he's going to have to really ramp it up if he wants to be ready to be, a state champ as a freshman in high school. The level of wrestling is just so high. And I'm excited to see where, like we talk about it, Clint Motter coaches with us. We talk about it all the time. I mean, a goal is great, right? And that's the goal, and that's what we're working for. But really, I think the goal should be to be the best version of yourself. I'm excited to see my boys be the best versions of themselves on the wrestling mat.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the things I'm constantly saying to my kids. I mean, they're young, so my boys are 6 and 5, my 2 oldest. And I'm always saying, having them repeat these different lines where it's Catholic, gentleman, scholar, athlete, and they keep saying it over and over. And I'm brainwashing them, and I'm brainwashing myself that this is the order we want to be in. Catholic, our faith first, gentleman, the way we treat people, we're kind and we're mannerly and all these things. Scholar, school and learning and intelligence, and then athlete. And it's like those are our buckets. And obviously, with faith, faith, obviously family is all grouped into that, where but it's just crazy because when it's just the athlete part, there's a lot of parents out there where that athlete bucket is the only thing that matters. And it's like, yeah, they say that it's about school, but it's not really. It's really about athletics. And I get it. Look, like, hey, sports is always a lot more fun for me than school, so I get it. But we have to keep emphasizing it, and we have to be real about that. Like, if the kid sees that we're breaking our back and we're bending over backwards and we're making all these exceptions for wrestling or whatever, and it's not like, well, we don't really care so much about the gentleman or the scholar part. Well, guess what? That kid gets a powerful message. And then one of the things that kind of always pisses me off is that it's like, you'll see parents how hardcore they are with the kids, and then like when it comes to like the faith, but well, we don't want to go overboard with this. It's like, come on, look what you're doing with wrestling. You don't want to go overboard? Well, don't talk to me about going overboard. You're already way overboard in wrestling. Well, the faith is way more important. You know what I mean? It's like
it's something I do with my kids every night. We I get on my knees, I pray every night with them. And I think that's really important. And I think that, they're always going to remember that.
Yeah.
And we don't pray about wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, we don't talk about that. Clint Motter is also very, very, Christian, very strong in his Christian faith. He talks a lot about it. And the way that like we're talking about it too is, it's not like you could have, I understand people have other beliefs, people have other faiths, but as long, there are other religions out there, and, I understand people have beliefs in other things, but as long as it's what you get, the message that you're getting too from these guys too, like these elite level athletes that are always talking about their faith, the message that they're getting is that they're not wrestling for themselves, right? They're doing it they're doing it to for a greater good, a greater, they're thinking about something greater than themselves. And it's not the be all end all of who they are either. And I think that's how they, you really take pressure off yourself too.
Yeah, you need perspective in the big picture. That's the key. And again, like I said, it's if it's so one dimensional with a parent, if all the parent is talking to the kid about is wrestling and everything is geared around wrestling, which I get it to a large extent, it has to be, but that just means as a parent, you have to go real hard in the other directions too, where you need to go out of your way to have the conversations about school or about faith or about being a gentleman or a lady and what that means and what that looks like, and hold doors for people and say please, thank you, and excuse me, and these, like these kind of things. It's you got to go out of your way because sure, wrestling's more fun for me to talk about too, but I can't get that message across to the kid that's the most, you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny too, like we talk about like not making it all about wrestling. We had these duels out in Hershey, 2 weeks ago, and there were so many teams there. I think the company that put it on, they were overwhelmed by how many teams showed up because it's a great duel, great competition. We were there we started at like 11:30, preparing for an earlier start. They said we were going to start at 2. They were only an hour late. We started at 3, and then we ended at 7, and then they repooled. And then there was going to be 3 more matches after that. And so some teams, the teams that stayed, a lot of teams were there past 11 o'clock at night. Me and my coaches and our parents, we all got together and we said, look, we're not going to repool because if we do that, then we're committing to 3 matches. At least we can tell the tournament director, don't put us in the repool, we're leaving. And then we don't leave anybody hanging, right? So we did that. And then the next day, we spent 7 hours at Hershey Park going on roller coasters and stuff. So, the message we're trying to send to the kids is, it's important to come out here and get matches, right? But not so important that you got to be in the gym for 12 hours when, that's not going to be fun. And we really came out here to wrestle and go to Hershey Park. So we wanted them to know that was important to us too, the fun part.
Yeah. It just has to be emphasized at every stage of the game, because when you think about it, it's like you don't have to wrestle in life. You just don't. Like, it's not, it's fun. It's funny. It's like there's these, like, you have Okay, like you have to go to school, you have to have a job one day. Like there's certain that you exist in a family. So like these are things you have to be.
Mhm.
You need to have some form of recreation. You need to have some fitness and health, obviously, for your life to just be healthy and fit, right? But you don't have to wrestle per se, but it's kind of like this arbitrary bucket that we've created where it's like, no, and that's the big bucket in our life. So
Yeah.
but we have to just keep that in mind. Like you said, and a lot of times parents, especially as a kid gets more serious in wrestling, they might be like, well, no, I don't want to go there. I want to be at the place that's all business. It's like, no, we are all business. This is part of the all business. When this kid wants to be friends with everyone here, they're getting along, they're enjoying it, they're having a good experience. That is what's going to get them to want to be a good wrestler long term. So it's not like I always wondered that sometimes, like why some places they play dodgeball. As I started getting more serious about wrestling, it's like, well, the reason why they're playing dodgeball, make it fun. Kids are laughing, they're having a good time, and then guess what? Those kids wind up, they have that community, they grow, they go on and they get better. But if you're just thinking like, no, I got to get better. It's like, yes, part of getting better is having fun and having the experience.
Yeah, you can't. That's right, dude. You can't be great at it if you don't love it, and
how do you get them to love it? By having friends, by doing other fun things.
By making it fun. Yeah, because I forget, somebody posted, I think Yanni posted it? Or it might have been after Yanni's match. Somebody made a post and it just said, wrestling is hard. Right? It was one of those guys. It was like a tweet or something and just said, wrestling is hard. And it just couldn't be more true,
Yeah.
And a lot of the parents that push their kids a little too hard or that do things maybe that they gotta, they need people like us to say, hey, pull it back a little bit. It's because they haven't experienced it at that level,
Right.
and sometimes, guys that wrestled in high school, nowadays it's a lot tougher than when we were in high school and even years before us. But, guys that didn't wrestle at that high level in college or at the high level in high school didn't experience how hard it could really be. And some guys did. I'm not saying nobody that you had to wrestle at that level to experience. There are guys that did, but to be under that pressure, there was some pressure involved in that, and being a name and trying to win a state title or trying to be ranked in college and all that stuff. And with that pressure comes, you also have to time management. You have to go to school. You have to manage your weight. It's just all those things combined. It's really, really hard, especially at that age. And I think a lot of parents underestimate how hard it is.
Yeah. And you want wrestling to be their outlet and a place where I keep going back. We're editing this book, so it keeps going back to my head, but a place where wrestling is an expression of freedom. Right. So
like your artist, like it's your art.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now think about this. In America, what a lot of times it's our job. Right. So in Soviet Union, you couldn't you had to watch what you say, you had to watch what you wrote, you had to watch what you listened to, all of that. So these wrestlers who were great from Soviet, Beloglazov, Azayev, Satiev, all these guys, wrestling was like an expression of this was their outlet where they could just let loose and rip it. And in America, it's like, well, no. And this is why a parent has to make sure that you don't overdrive the kid, because then what happens is, outside of that becomes their job, and outside of wrestling becomes their expression, and that's where you start to get the promiscuity, drugs, and doing all kind it's hard enough. It's hard enough even without the pressures of wrestling, with the peer pressure and what society is. So now if they can't express themselves on the mat, they're going to express themselves off the mat, and that you got to be careful, because that could be to their demise.
I mean, that's so interesting to hear it put that way, because you do see that a lot. You do see that a lot in our sport, where you see guys who wrestled at a very high level and maybe didn't achieve the goals that they wanted to achieve, and then they turn to, drugs and alcohol afterwards, and
or even if they reached their goals, because they were confined, they were put in the box.
Right, so correct.
That's even the scarier thing. You think, they got their goal, and then all of a sudden we think, just because I get my goal, check. No.
Now I can just do whatever I want.
Right. Yeah. So it's always going to come out in some way, and that's why you like the questions. It's funny, like my mom would always ask me, even when I was younger as a kid, it's like, "Are you happy? Are you happy?" And we'd be like, this kind of fight. It's like, "Yeah, I'm happy." But she always said, you never know what could happen. You're never promised tomorrow, and you want to be happy in life. And like, it wasn't a matter of like, don't do the right thing. It was always like, you got to live the right way. But, mental and emotional health, my mom wasn't using those words, mental and emotional health, but like, that's really what she was getting at. Like, are you happy?
That was a different generation back then. They didn't,
they didn't talk like that. But nonetheless,
same
not
concept.
a bad, not a bad question. It doesn't, and happy doesn't just mean you're laughing and smiling all the time. It just, happiness and struggling they're not necessarily opposites. They're not contraries. Not necessarily. So like, it is important that on the parents' radar, along with school and wrestling and where they're going to go to college, how are they doing mentally and emotionally? And it's not just, hey, I got to do whatever I got to do to get them to be successful, because like, do they have freedom? Are they expressing themselves? Is this kid going to look, is this going to bleed into a different area of their life? They're going to rebel. Like you might be like, you might pride yourself, hey, I get my kid to do what they're supposed to do. Yeah. But they're a human. And if they don't have freedom, anyone, you, me, all of us, if we feel caged, actually, in fact, especially the two of us, if we feel caged up, especially in our younger days, that's not good.
Well, that's so funny because this leads to something that I deal with a lot too. Again, bouncing ideas. Like I've come across, parents over the many years, right? Like I've been coaching for over 20 years now. So there's a lot of people that we've coached, and a lot of parents too. So one of the things I used to get, I don't get it as much anymore, but one of the things I used to get is, hey, he wrestled, he wanted to do this. He wanted to do that. He wanted to wrestle for, 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon. He wanted to do it. I didn't make him. He wanted to do it. Okay. But you went up to him, and the way that you worded it to him, he knows
it wasn't an option.
Right. He knows that dad wants me to do this. So he knows that dad wants me to say, yeah, dad, I want to wrestle for 7 hours in a hot gym on a Saturday afternoon on a nice spring day. Sure, I would love to do that. And then the father turns around and says, hey, my kid asked for it. He wants to do it. So parents have to also, I think, be very conscious of how you're talking to your kids and when you're asking them. And I've been good with this with my boys, because I do ask them all the time, like, hey, there's a tournament coming up here. Do you guys want to do it? And I'm like, if you don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. And there's been plenty of times where they're like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. I'm like, okay, we won't do it.
Yep.
Again, like if they don't want to, see, the other thing too is like, if you make a kid go wrestle when he doesn't want to wrestle, he's probably going to wrestle poorly. And then what do you deal with? Now the dad's yelling at him because he wrestled poorly. It's like, well, he didn't really want to go anyway.
But wait, it doesn't end there. Now the mom is yelling at the dad to get off the kid. So now you've created family. Now you've like, you know what I mean? Like,
and now they think it's their fault. Mom and dad are fighting. Correct.
It spirals downward very quick, and parental fighting, and then the parents behind, and then the dad is just like, well, if he would have won, he would be happy and we wouldn't be fighting. That's not the lesson you should have got out of this. but nonetheless, so like, and hold on, there is something we got to say. There is something to be said. Of course, we try to not manipulate, but we try to like get the kid to want to like to do it. So it's not saying there isn't an element of that, but there also has to be, and like, yes, we are trying to orchestrate situations like the Godfather pulling the strings to try to get our kids to want to wrestle. But at the same time, and this is where the parent has to be dead serious and take a look internally and really look at the kid. Really look at the kid. Is this really what they want to do? Am I pushing too hard? If they're not asking that question just as much as they're trying to pull the strings, something could crack, and it probably will.
That's great.
And now the difficult thing also is that even all of this being said, it's still extremely hard for a parent, which is why there's no substitute for putting your kid around people who've been there before and people who've done it. That's exactly why you take your kid to a Yale Street, where you're around Donnie, who's been there before, who's wrestled. That's why you'd get your kid a mindset coach, because now it's like, okay, even if it's hard as the parent, they're hearing it from someone else. And then you have to trust those experts. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, everyone's got their lane. And at the end of the day, when I die, I'm not going to be judged by, did I make my kid a wrestling champion? Did I raise a good person who is leading them towards God? That's actually what I'm going to be judged on. So, you know what? I'd love to be my kid's #1 influence in wrestling. If that's going to be Donnie, there you go. You take him, Donnie, with wrestling. My job is to be the father. So if everyone stays in their lane, things are going to be a lot healthier. And like I said, less family tension, and the kid's going to probably be happier. And if they really don't want to be a champion in wrestling, there's many reasons why you got to go back as a parent and put yourself in the kid's shoes. Did you have the eye of the tiger? Did you like what was your what was your mindset like? So it's like if they have to ultimately be doing what they love to do and what they want to do. And if that's not wrestling, fine. Wrestling could give them lessons so they could excel in a different area. I know I'm going on a little bit there, but you know what I mean?
I'm just thinking about what you're saying and how to apply it to my kids as a father too, because, growing up, living in a house where you were born and your garage, your backyard is a wrestling room and your dad runs a wrestling club. I don't know what that feels like. And so I'm sure that there's a certain element of, pressure that they may feel. And so I think it's really even more important for someone like me and someone like you,
yes.
To make sure that these guys know, like, hey, wrestling is the vehicle that's being used to make our relationship stronger. And there's times where I'm going to mess up, and I have, I've tried to always make it right. I've had to sit down and apologize and say, I'll never do that again. I'll never come down on you like that again, just for losing a match or just for, and I never, and I didn't. Like, I learned a lesson from it because I felt the pain as a dad of what I may be causing if I come down too hard on them, and I've seen it so many times. So.
And there's a few redeeming things about this for the parents that, kids are resilient. That doesn't like there's been parents who are like extremely abusive and the kids still like will forgive them if they're willing to change. So that's a big thing. And it's never too early to like, you really, or never too late, or hopefully not too late. So, you salvage your relationship. And we all learn here. The other thing, one of the other important lessons for your kid, we're all humans. I'm not perfect. I try to be the best man that I can in front of my kids, but they're also going to have to know that, guess what? Dad's not perfect either. And in fact, that's a good lesson because he's messing up, but he's trying. He's saying he's sorry. So even though I have my quirks, they have to live with my quirks too. But as long as we're saying like, hey, I'm trying to get better, that's a healthy lesson for them too. Like, we're not going to be perfect, and we shouldn't expect to be.
I think that there's a lesson to be learned by saying I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like to hear your father come to you and say I'm sorry for what I did. I mean that's something that a real man does. A real man knows how to apologize. So, to be able to teach that, I think is really important to your kids. And again, this whole thing is hard. And I get it. Yeah. Being a dad in a wrestling arena, just forget about being a dad coach. That's really hard too. But just being a dad and a mom in wrestling, we know how hard it is. So, we're here, my coaches, me and my coaching staff and, you and your staff, and we're here to help the parents and guide them through it because we have the experience in doing this. And, I think one of the things that frustrates me is that we're here, guys like you and I are here to help the parents, but some of them act like they don't want the help. Even though they do, they don't take the help. And I think that's just my biggest gripe right now is I'm just like, I wish more parents would listen to the coaches and the mindset coaches, the wrestling coaches, because we didn't have this when we were growing up. And And like, I always look back and say, the reason why I wanted to do this is I want to provide a service for families that I didn't really have.
From now until Fargo, our partners, Champion Athlete Wrestler Nutrition, the premier weight management program for wrestlers, will be offering a special Fargo nutrition program for only $350. That's $160 saving. Visit their website, champion-athletes.com, or call 800-324-1447 today. Right? And it's like, and the parents, they'll hear us talk, and it's like, yep, got it. Let's go. And then it's like, hold on a second. No, you listen. It's like, I've been listening to you for the last several months or years. You don't got it. You don't got it. You don't got it. You don't got it. It's like, and how do I know? Because I'm saying this all the time to people, and I still don't got it. I'm still trying to, like, it's like a doctor had, the doctor's office is their practice. The lawyer, oh, you coded their practice. Well, same thing as a coach. It's like, it's your practice. Mindset coach is my practice, which means I'm still learning too. And once you think you have all the answers, you probably need to start changing your questions or just retire on top. You know, you have all the answers, retire on top.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
but,
right.
but it's like too quickly, like, yep, I got it. Good. And it's like, no, just because you heard it, you really need to hear it over and over again. Let it sink in, take it to heart, get your kid to help, get your kid some help. You get some help too. It's like, you know, that's the other thing. It's like the parents sometimes need to get the help too. That's not a weakness. It's like, hey, I have some clear deficiencies here. Like I've my spiritual director. I'm dumping things like, hey, how could I be better as a husband? How could I be better as a father? You know, I don't do this well. So like parents, you need to be able to open up too and explain that, because otherwise it's going to come out on the kid, and you don't want that. Like, you don't want to look back with regret. Like, listen, we're all going to look back and say, there's things I could have done better. That's not what we're talking about. But it's like, man, I really roughed up that relationship with my kid, or they really could have been different if I would have just taken a different approach. So that's all we're talking about. Like, parents should be aware of it. Think about it on a regular basis. I mean, on my Instagram, I have all these different parenting things that I'm following. In fact, just the other day, and I love being a dad. My favorite title in the world is being a dad. I made a parent perseverance playlist for songs, like things like "Cats in the Cradle" or different songs where it's like and things like like your kids grow, like a lot of these country songs that talk about kids grow up real fast. I'm putting that on for myself too.
I know,
because I have to remember too. Okay, I punished the kid again. Now he had to go to his room again, and then you're pissed off, and then it's like, well, now I don't want to play with you. You know, that kind of, like all of that. It's hard. It's very, very hard.
I saw something recently that really made me think. I never heard it before. You may have. I mean, it seems pretty common to say, but I never heard it before. What's the best part of having kids? And the answer is watching them grow up.
What's the worst part about having kids?
The same answer.
Watching them grow up.
And it's so true, dude. It's so true. I mean, I'm living it now with my kids are getting, 13 now. It's like you're getting to that. Not a little boy anymore. And, it's starting to change.
Oh, man. Yeah, you get teary-eyed thinking about it.
Yeah,
I know.
It is. But there's a lot of cool things involved in it, too. It's just, it's different, and I think what you're talking about, though, too, is like, listen, we're all not getting out of this alive, right? And when the time comes, and it's time for us to pass on, I think when we're sitting there on our deathbed, to me, the most important thing that I'm going to be thinking about is, did I do my best job as a father? Did I do right by my kids? And winning wrestling matches is not going to be at the top of that list when I think about it.
Yeah, you're probably not going to think, hey, if I'd have, my kid could have won 2 more matches if I'd have been harder on him. It's like, come on. So it's and like and tying it together too. It's like a lot of parents, like a lot of the things we're saying here, and we're not, we're talking to ourselves too. So we're not just like directing this at everyone else. But
oh, sure,
when you think about it, like a lot of the things we're saying, you've heard already, and a lot of you parents might have said before too. But instead of, I read this before. Don't ask yourself. An intelligent person doesn't just say, "I already know this." The intelligent person says, "How well am I applying this?" Right? It's like, you can tell me get 8 hours of sleep. You can say I get 8 hours of sleep. And it's like, yeah, I know this. Okay. How well are you applying this? It's like, well, most of these nights I didn't get 8 hours of sleep. So I could say, yep, got it. I know this already.
Yeah.
No. How well am I applying this? And the answer is it could always be better, because no one's perfect and no one ever will be perfect. So, we want to see what Donnie and I think our passionate plea here is for parents to a little bit of a wake up call, right? Like you want your kid's coach to like, hey, wake up, snap out of it. There's another level you could get to. We'd like to challenge the parents, wake up, snap out of it. There's another level you could get to. Maybe you're doing a great job already. You probably are, but guess what? You could take it to another level by doing some of these things we're talking about.
Yeah. And just utilize the people that are here to help. I mean, I make myself available to everyone. I'm on the phone with one of our parents today, who's also a friend of mine. And, it was a mother, and she's like, I feel like I'm bothering you. I'm like, no, I'm happy to be bothered. That's my job, especially when I care about the kids. I'm happy to be bothered. So I just wish more people would take advantage of that. And again, the same thing with you guys, like, utilize the wrestling mindset. Parents, like if you're signing your kids up for it, listen to what they're saying, talk to the kids, take their advice, and maybe even some of you could sign up for a wrestling mindset session once in a while, because I don't think it can hurt. I think it can only help.
Absolutely. Yeah, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And even if you know, it's not easy when you're the one who's intimately involved, like we're saying for ourselves. So yeah, no, it's a big deal. We'll do more of these conversations, Donnie, because it's important. And like we said, it's like it could be something we might have said last year when we did one of our talks, but it's worth saying again. And then it's worth saying again. And then it's worth saying again. And the parents come, it's, that's the other thing for parents. The parents and the wrestlers, they come and go. Eventually your cycle runs out of wrestling. And we're seeing these cycles, they continue to come through. Like we're still involved. It's our business, it's our life, it's our passion, it's our vocation, right? But it's like we've seen it before. So, you might want to take a listen to and try a few of the things we're talking about.
100%, dude. That's my biggest, the line I use all the time is I've seen this movie before,
right.
and it has, and you're right. It's like, how many kids have cycled through our program that are now married and have kids of their own? How many kids that I've coached, and so, yeah, it's like, it's a lot through experience. And I just like sharing the things that I've learned through my experience and that I'm still learning,
Yeah, man. Awesome stuff, Donnie. And again, like I said, we'll keep doing it again. There's no reason that we keep these conversations going. They need to hear it. We need to hear it. It's important for the wrestling world. Just these open, candid conversations from wrestling coaches, fathers, people who've seen it before. So,
I mean, I feel better already, Gene. I think this is therapeutic.
Me too, brother. Me too. And it's good. And like we said, we're all growing together. We hope some of the parents listen to the things we're saying, and the coaches, and we all grow together. That's the great thing about the brotherhood of wrestling, sisterhood of wrestling, the fraternity of wrestling.
Definitely. So, yeah, man. For sure.
Good stuff, Donnie. We'll do it again. Thanks.
All right, Gene. Thanks a lot, buddy.